Welcome everybody to a new Hardcore Italians podcast. Today we have on Robert Funaro, also known as Eugene from The Sopranos. Robert, thanks for coming on. How's everything going?
Thank you, Mike. It's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me on here, man.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hardcore.
love it. Thanks for wearing the shirt too. Appreciate it. And congrats on the book, man. Homemade. I love it. This
Thank
book is
you.
awesome.
Thank
So
you. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for sending me a copy. I've been diving into it and loving it already. And want
Cool.
to know what inspired the book?
Well, be honest with you, Andrew, my manager, business manager, Jellica, gotta say his name right. It gets mad. Yeah. Um, yeah, he said, the thing was during COVID, I started making food. Started making a lot of Italian recipes. My mother was still alive, God rest her soul, and I started cooking. Everybody was cooking in the kitchen. So I started posting these things on Instagram. My sister said, "You should join Instagram." I said, I don't want to do that, but you know what? All right, I'll join. So I started posting it. Get a lot of likes, 1,000 likes, 2,000 likes and stuff. So I said, it's not bad. So Andrew kind of took the ball in his court. And he said, hey, why don't you write a cookbook? And I said, not another cookbook by an actor. You got Stanley Tucci. And I'm not really a professional. I do the homemade recipes. You'll see them in there, the Sunday sauce, broccoli and piece of macaroni, Aunt Ray's eggplants. I mean, I'm not, so I said, I thought about it and we're all pivoting as actors because the work, it seems on the East Coast and now with the West, with the fires, it
Yeah.
seems to kind of slow down a lot for us in the strike. So I said, maybe I can I'll just do 8 recipes and I'll pick 8 episodes. I'll limit it. I'll give it a
Yeah.
limit to the writing because I haven't really written anything.
Yeah.
I work on screenplays, but never written any. So I said that'll bring it into perspective, like bookmark it, so to say. And I'll talk about how I got on the show and couple that with the recipe. Each episode will have a recipe, and I'll save the best for last, which was members only, Mama Finaro's Sunday sauce. That's my favorite recipe of them all. And as well as I, the Sunday sauce or gravy, whatever you want to call it. Oh, so
Yeah.
that was the inspiration.
100% love it. No, it's similar to how hardcore started. We just posted online about what we felt like meant to be Italian, and then it started getting a ton of likes, and we're like, let's make some of these phrases into shirts, and then sometimes the best things come about that way. So I love that. And,
Yeah, happy accidents, Mike.
yeah, exactly. So, and I love the unique approach, like half stories and half recipes. I thought that was really well done. And to your point, you definitely have some hardcore recipes in there, man, with the
Yeah,
artichokes and the blue crab sauce and all this stuff. I
right.
mean,
With claw crabs, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I love it, man. It's got me curious, like where's your family from in Italy and how they start getting
Yeah,
into the food? Because these are all family recipes, correct?
yeah. I'm third generation. So my
Mm.
great grandfather Nicola Pagano, um, he came from Naples, Ottaviano in Naples, what I believe. I really only have one side. So the
Yeah.
other one, everyone says my grandmother on my mother's side. Where was grandma from? That and they say Ghana Gayats. Where is Ghana Gayats? That's a joke. Ghana
Yeah.
Gayats. I don't know. So I really never researched that.
Yeah.
But yeah, third generation, they came to New York, they settled in Brooklyn. And what they did is my grandfather, Nicola, he started raising fruit and vegetables. And back then in the 30s, the government had land and everyone was so poor that the government didn't mind plotting. You didn't have to really pay rent. You'd get a little piece of land in Long Island, somewhere in where Grumman's Air Force Base is. And so all the Italians would take a little piece of land, and they
Yeah.
really didn't care the government because it was not doing anything anyway. And you're growing produce, you're helping the economy. So
Yeah.
they would take those produce and drive it over to Brooklyn. And little by little, he started getting a reputation with the vegetables. He never opened up a big produce store,
Mhm.
but he started building in Brooklyn. So he built a couple of homes. My grandma Finaro's chicken in the oven that's in there. And I show my grandfather. I don't show him Nicola, the great grandpa. That's on my grandmother's side. So that's how we started. And she wound up at the house because that was the way he wanted it, Grandpa
Mhm.
Pagano. And the other Paganos and everyone else, they stayed out in Long Island and they had a thrifty. Did really well with themselves. They did thrifty beverages and etc. Before the gas stations started handling beverages. Now a lot of them are closed down now because of that. So that's how it all began, you know.
Yeah, no, love it, man. Humble beginnings, that's how it always goes. So love
Yeah.
that. And with Italian recipes, and I know you joked about this a bit, but with Italian recipes, we just eyeball it, man. So like how do you go about taking these family recipes? Because it's a pinch of that, it's a little of that. There's nothing, it's hard to get these written down. What was the process like to select
Well,
these and get them in paper?
yeah, well, a lot of them, like you said, are lost and lost with time. And some of us didn't have the know-how or the brains to ask Grandma Funaro for some of these recipes. Like meatloaf, I would have done the meatloaf. She made it the greatest meatloaf, so soft, delicious. But I tried it, I can't replicate it. It's gone. Now the Italian cheesecake, my sister Linda took that recipe because she was taking care of her, just like my sister Annie's broccoli and macaroni. She was there and she observed Grandma make the broccoli and macaroni with the garlic and everything. So a lot of them, what you're talking about is me. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen. I'm the second son, and I guess my brother had the gun as a baby picture. I had like a teddy bear. You know what I mean? I had the imagination, the fantasy. So I really love food. So I watched her cook it. But as you said, she showed me how to cook it. I showed an interest in learning how to cook it, and I also watched my father, and we passed down. But I was happy to get these recipes in there, Mike, because now they'll be protected through time. We got an ebook also, and on Amazon. But the thing is, it's just so many of them are lost. But as you said, a pinch of this, pinch of that. Well, you got to kind of. The truth is in the taste, and if you do a little bit more salt, I learned that less salt is better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you learn as you go along, but you have the concept of what you're making and how and what they used. It's important to know the ingredients they used.
Mhm. Nice. So this book was a family effort. Everyone was kind of helping out with remembering the recipes and things like that. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. And like you said too, that's important about passing it down. That's something I try to like have my mom come over make Sunday sauce one time. I'm like writing, I'm trying to write it down because I can't describe it. You have to like watch it happen. So I get exactly what it means, and that's important, man, to pass it down for the future because that's how it keeps going. So that's why I
Yeah.
really, that's why this book's awesome, man. You got the recipes, and then obviously the other half with the Sopranos stories. I mean, you got some cool, never before seen like behind the scenes stories. So how'd you go about picking out what stories to pick? I'm sure there was millions, right?
Well, we had to narrow it down to 8 episodes. James McCusker, the co-writer with me, and these guys help with, kind of like picking stuff and giving me direction. But I basically wrote, those stories and the recipes, but they helped with the concept and stuff like that. So, I mean, I thought that I'd pick out, the ones, the episodes that I enjoyed, and some of them like Columbus Day which written by Michael Imperioli with Stevie. I never thought that blowing my nose. Would you be quiet? Would you shut up? I'm trying to listen to this. Would be so popular. That whole bit that I did, I talk about it in the book. It was almost like a Charlie Chaplin bit. I had to be annoying. So,
Yeah.
so I tried to pick the ones that people really enjoyed. Oh, they come up to me and tell me, I know you do the right thing. Of course, you ought to know, sweetie, with the Snapple bar. So I try to pick the best ones that people remembered, and of course, members only, which is a no-brainer. But at the same time, twofold, I thought it might be informative, Mike, for actors. I mean, to know my trajectory, so they can learn a little bit for themselves that it's not all peaches and cream, so to say. Once you get the job as an actor, yes, you're hired, but then the real work begins. And that's a lot of second guessing, doing this, as I speak about in the book, with that I don't want to give it up, but I mean, I was
Yeah.
Ralph Cefaretto at first, and then I became Eugene. And I talk about that in the book, how that happened. But so I thought it might be a reference for actors also.
Yeah,
So,
100%. And how'd you first get into acting? What were you acting before The Sopranos? And how'd you go from being in a old school Italian family to being an actor?
I could still remember like on 18th and Bath Avenue in Brooklyn because I was born in Brighton Beach, Coney Island Hospital. And I can still remember my father worked downstairs at Robinette Fabrics, and we were upstairs. We had like this residential home. It was really sucked to have your father work downstairs as an interior decorator because when you cut it up with mom, you get a nice beanie. I could see him coming up the steps, like taking his strap off. That was terror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I still remember like singing a song for his boss, "Act Naturally" by Ringo Starr. They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make it. I never thought it would happen, but
Yeah.
my uncle was a priest and a Monsignor when he closed his career, and he did these productions for Catholic charities to raise money for Catholic charity. He did musicals, The
Wow.
Music Man, Hello Dolly, a lot of different How to Succeed in Business, and he gradually built them up. They started with humble beginnings in Howard Beach at a local parish. And then as he progressed and was given promotions in the church, he really made some great productions at a lady Christ the King Church in Queens on Metropolitan Avenue, big stages. And some of the composers would come down to see them. So and also some of his dancers and his singers, they went on to do Broadway. So
Wow.
I had that kind of bug from him going there to see his productions, and that's how I started. Then, to make a long story short, I studied and I landed a play with James, my first paying job with James Gandolfini in Streetcar Named Desire. I played Stanley, he played Mitch. This is how we became friends. 15 years later, 12, 13 years later, he asked me to audition. He came to where we found out where I was working through a friend of mine. But that's kind of like I mean, I studied, I went in and out, and then we did the play with James. And so that's how it kind of progressed. At the time of when I got the soprano gig, offered, to audition, I wasn't acting. I was managing Caroline's on Broadway. I was a bouncer there, the skinniest bouncer on Broadway. Mike, that's comedians say, look at that. I was skinny, but I was really skinny back then. Look at Bobby, the skinniest bouncer on Broadway. Those comedians, they're brutal.
Oh my God. Yeah, but wow, that's cool. So James Gandolfini personally picked you to be on the show, and you said he had you as Ralph Safrato in his mind, or he
Well, no,
have,
no, he did. There was a role. Ralph Cifaretto role was up. Now, being Stanley years ago, he's an antagonist. It seemed like they would match up. Now, he found out through my friend Gordon, who was a bartender there. He went to a party, Gordon went up to him and said, "Hey, if I was you, the second year of Sopranos, I'd get your friend Bobby Funaro a job on your show." I said, "Where, Bobby? What's he doing?" It was 10, 11, 12 years later after Streetcar. We did 3 months, don't forget, in Scandinavia. So we knew each other. We shared a few drinks, a few
yeah,
other things too. And so Gordon went up to him and he said, "Where's Bobby work?" Caroline's. And then one day he took his driver, Joe Fay. I never forget it. Joe told me that they had tried to, he remembered the role was available and he wanted me to audition. So he checked out a few comedy clubs and he finally wound up at Caroline's and he probably asked them, "Is Bobby here?" And he said, "Yeah, he's coming in." He comes in around 5 o'clock because he's managing. I walked down to Caroline's. There's like a dungeon down there on 50th and Broadway, no longer there. He was down at the bar. He's back towards me. And I said, "Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? It's a great success. And I got a role for you to audition for. I cannot promise you anything. I tried getting someone else on the show. It didn't happen. Have you been acting?" "Yeah, sure. Of course I lied. You gotta lie." It's a lie. You gotta lie. So I lied. And I said, "Yeah, you know, I have to do this, I have to do that, dabble this, imagine, And he said, "Okay." So Georgianne Walken was Chris Walken's wife. She was next door her casting Sheila Jaffe and Walken Jaffe. Well, Sheila was in LA, but Georgianne did the auditioning in New York. I auditioned, did a lot of praying, Mike, a lot of praying, got the silver cup, and I landed that role of Ralph Cifaretto. But I won't say anything more because
yeah,
people can read what happened in the book and
yeah.
how it became Eugene and stuff like that.
Okay,
That's
100%.
how it happened, basically.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. It's a real cool story. And tell me a little bit about just being on the set of The Sopranos, your first day. I mean, it's one of the most successful shows of all time. Like, how was that show and being around that cast different than, maybe other acting experiences?
Fucking terrifying. And I curse. It was
Yeah, of course.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. It was. You got to remember, Mike. I'm holding a tiger here. You know what that is, right? This is my
Well,
first professional
yeah.
job, and I'm trying to hit a mark. The mark is the thing. The T, right? And
Yeah.
they and I'm missing the mark like 3 times. And the first, I remember the first AD, Mike, he came up to me and he said, "Yeah, you gotta hit the, the mark." I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I just, and I missed it again, and he came up to me, and I went up to him, and he went like this to me, like it's terrifying. To hit that mark,
Yeah.
and I did. The first day it was very nerve-wracking, but I know I got through it. And I did. But it was really through the rough, basically to the stars for me. I had to really work up to it, and it also helps to have your good friend of yours behind you in terms of backing you up, and that's what James was. James was the kind of man, uh, one of a kind. They broke the mold. He knew how hard it was for actors to get in the door, and by hook or by crook, he was going to get his friends in the door, or people that he really respected on the show, because he knew how hard it is. It's still hard. It's
Mhm.
still difficult unless you get to that level. It's not so easy. So, you know what I mean? So that was the great thing about James. He was a very giving actor and a very a tremendous person, human being. And I love what he said in the actor studio when James Lipton asked him, if you would ask God for something, one thing, what would you say to him if he was to grant you one wish? And James said, and if you saw it, let me take over for a while. There's so much, let me take over for a while, because he was the kind of man who would want to level the playing field for everyone. He was very giving. Children on the set, there's some great shots of him holding children. Maybe they had Down syndrome or handicapped children. And so it's a great loss for us, but we remember him. And as a matter of fact, on March 30th, there's a James Gandolfini rest stop on the Garden State Parkway. I believe it's in Lodi, or Lodi, New Jersey. They're gonna have. I'm gonna do my best to be there also. Jeff Marchetti, his good friend, is gonna be there, and he coordinated it. So we're gonna have a launch of that James Gandolfini restaurant. They have John Bon Jovi, they got Frank Sinatra, now they
Yeah.
got James Gandolfini.
Nice. Yeah, all the Italians. I love it. Wow, that's inspiring with James Gandolfini though, man. He was really a good guy. And I mean, tell me a little bit about his acting style. Like, was that, especially like you said, you didn't have a ton of experience before that. So was that something that inspired you and helped you? Like, was he just an incredible actor and just could turn it on, turn it off? Like, was he different than some of these other actors?
Well, James definitely a method actor. He had a technique, but it was his own technique. And I think that a lot of actors, they misconstrue a lot of, especially in film, you have to really develop your own technique of what works for you. All those things that you do in class, of course, they help. Um, but film is more technique and he did all three. He was a double threat. He was a triple threat. He did some musical with that John Turturro film. He sang some of that, you know.
Um,
But he was I guess it was James um, uh, will, his will, his determination to get things right. He would stop at nothing. I mean, nothing to get things right. If he had to stay up all night to do a scene that required him to be fatigued and tired, and I think lack of sleep, sleep deprivation, it kind of makes you a little bit more aware of things. You're more focused. That's what they say when you're fasting also. You become more focused on what's in front of you.
yeah.
And he was able to kind of like an onion, peel away at that and get to the core of who he was.
Mhm.
And that was his technique. And he'd stop at nothing. Now, James, he worked with a coach, Susan, I believe it was Shepard. I believe it, Suzanne, how could I forget? Anyway, and he really, really worked hard at it. People don't think he did, but he did. He was a really hard, like 90% perspiration, 10%, genius.
Mhm.
So
Looked it up. Susan Ashton.
Sue Aston, yes,
Yeah.
and I worked with her also. She gave me some. She coached me during members only. You know, a
Uh,
lot of great actors, even Emily Perez. What's her name? She thanked her coach. So it's a very, and people think it just do it alone. No, it's a collaboration between
yeah.
everything. Just like the book was a collaboration with Andrew and
Yeah.
James.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Team effort. And
yeah.
talk to me a little bit more about Eugene. Like, what was it like when you learned about his fate? Is that something you knew in the beginning? Is that something that, they decided?
I talked about that. I talk about that in the book because I went up to Terry Winter, one of the main writers on the show.
Mhm.
And I said, "Who is Eugene?" When they said we're gonna make a character for you, and he said,
Yeah.
"What? No." I said, "What do you mean you don't know? I've done plays before. We know the trajectory of who we are. We don't do it that way in TV. We're gonna make it up as we go along. Don't worry about it. It's okay." Well, I'm not gonna argue with him. I
Yeah.
mean, Joe. I mean, Emmy's there galore. I'm not gonna argue with him. I'm gonna say, "Okay, all right, we'll do it as we. I've got to trust, have faith."
Yeah.
And as we went along, a lot of the writers they would really pally up to us. They would kind of see our behavior at the set, playing basketball. Went to the racetrack at Belmont. I talk about that in the book. Some of the writers came. This is the life is fodder for the writing. So they say art imitates life. This is what the writers would do, and I think a little bit with James too. You've got I mean, what actor would go to an audition and say to David Chase, and he's doing great. They love him. And he says, you know what? I can't do this. I can't do it. I'm not just, can I come in tomorrow to do it? Can I,
Yeah.
let me come in tomorrow. And, you've seen the documentary. How many actors would do that? I mean, it's unethical, right? I mean, you don't
Yeah.
do that, but he
Yeah.
did it. The thing with James is that he took these tremendous chances. He wasn't afraid to take risks. We all want to be, I work in TV, you audition in TV, you're not, sometimes you do get a part because you took a little bit of a risk, as opposed to being within the margins there, of how it sounds.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of now I forgot the question. What was the question?
Well, Eugene, when you learned about his fate, because
Yeah. So
he
then,
had a tough
so
ending,
then,
you know?
so we went. So then they started, doing things and giving me more and more and more. As they talk about that, in the homemade the
Yeah.
book, and the more I got, and the more I did, and the Snapple thing, and then finally, with season six, I got the call. David Chase calls everybody up to tell them that told me I have good news. I don't want to give it up, but anyway, he
Yeah.
let me know that Eugene was going to die, but also told me that it was going to be a great episode. And I don't know where they got the episode from. I think it's a divine act of God to make them do that for me, to make Terry come up with that idea that Eugene is just being closed in. And I thought to myself, well, this is a great opportunity because a lot of people can relate, Mike, to wanting to get out from the situations that they're in. So many people are in those situations.
Yeah.
Um, they're stuck for their whole life and they had opportunities. How many stories have you heard? I've heard a million of them coming up as a young man. He almost sang with Tony Bennett and he didn't, you know what I mean? Sang with
Yeah.
this guy. He acted with that. You know what I'm saying, right? And it never happened. Well, it happened for me, and I was really fortunate and blessed too.
Hmm. Yeah. 100%. And if Eugene survived, where do you think his story would go?
Well, I think he might have. I think he would have went to Florida. He would have died. We have that early retirement at the Omerta, the brand that we promote, me, Jason, and Danny, Omerta, www.shopomerta.com.
Yeah.
And they have my brand, the Fort Myers brand, Eugene's Escape, you know what I mean? And so uh
Yeah. I
yeah,
got a couple,
he's probably retired down at Fort Myers.
yeah, 100%. And I got a couple from the Muerta, the couple
Yeah.
cigars, the coffee. It's
Uh-huh.
really good stuff, man. You guys did a good
It
job
is.
with that brand.
It's quality coffee. It really is.
Yeah.
You could really, even though mine is like a caramel, it's a caramel kind of base, but it has that coffee bottom is really good coffee. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and how'd you guys get into that? You seem close. Like I feel like in the book you're just talking so highly about all the cast members, man. You got a brand with two other cat. Like How'd you, is
Yeah,
this,
Danny and Jason. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Well, this, Mike, there's so many books, and I say it in the beginning about negative things about people. You read it all the time. And that's what people it's funny how they love that. It's like that, how that reality TV came about, became
yeah,
this whole drama thing. So I wanted to put out something there that promotes everyone to say good things about it because there, of course, there's good and bad in everyone, and stories that I could have said that pissed me off. But I decided to do something positive to talk a lot about the positive people and the great artists from Pete Picosi, the stunt coordinator, to Juliet Polska, the wardrobe person. Great artistry, you know what I mean? Besides the writing and those guys,
yeah,
you know.
1000%. That's what I noticed. Like, just not everyone's positive like that anymore, man. So I caught on to that right away. Like, just building people
Yeah,
up. I love it.
that's cool you did that. That's cool you did that because yeah, I know it's so much stuff. I mean, and then people get pissed off at you. You make enemies. I'm not into that.
Yeah, and some people just do it. They want the attention, so they don't care. They'll piss other
Right.
people off and whatever. And like you're
Yeah.
not, you're taking like this is a good road to take. That's what I appreciate. And yeah, it's like that's what I'm saying. It's building everyone up in Sopranos, saying some good behind the scenes stories. You got some family recipes talking about your family. Like it's really well done book from what I've read so far, man. I can't wait to
Thank you.
finish it and
Thank you.
try some of these. Yeah,
We're going to
good.
be at Barnes and Noble tomorrow in Staten Island on Richmond Avenue from 12 to 2 doing a signing. April 26th at Chico and Sons in New Jersey, the greatest sandwich, the home of the Soprano sandwiches. There's a Eugene pulled pork, very good. The Pie O' My, the Danny Grimaldi, the Jackie April Jr., the Salam Maria sandwich. So I'm gonna be out there also, and then we might have we're working on a potential Barnes and Noble in Brick Township in New Jersey. And so if anyone wants to find out this information, just go to my Instagram page, my IG me, Robert Funaro, and homemade at Robert Funaro, and you get all the information. We post everything on this stuff. So
Thanks everyone out there listening. Go buy Robert's book. I'm telling you, really good stuff.
on Amazon.com, they're on Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon. There you go. You're on there. That's perfect.
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, thank you so much, Robert. Really appreciate it, man. And if you guys are listening, please like and subscribe, supporting the podcast. Thank you, and have a good one.